Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and I am here with my good buddy and co-host, JD. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
How you been today?
Doing good. It's been a good day.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's been a really good day. I actually played in a charity golf tournament for Make-A-Wish this morning, and they had a child there that was diagnosed with leukemia, and he spoke and took everything I had to fight back to the tears. But that young man is in remission, thank goodness. So that was happy stuff right there. But
it's a long dream of mine right there is to be able to help a child with cancer. That's on my to-do list.
That's one of mine as well.
I was so excited to be here. I mean, I called you and let you know I was 2 hours early. So
yeah, I called JD to tell him I might be at the studio just really close, and he's like, I'm already here. And that was like at what, 11:30? I'm like, dang, dude, you're excited. Hey, we got a great guest for you here today. We got Jared Miller. Jared, dude, thank you so much for being here. I mean, this guy, for you guys that aren't from Utah, but he drove all the way up from St. George. He had meetings this morning, if I'm not wrong, and he busted butt all the way from St. George up here to Salt Lake, which is, what is it, 300 and something miles or something like that?
Yeah, it basically took me like three and a half hours, but I'm on the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Like, you make those sacrifices for quality programs, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it.
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. He's got a great story to share, so I'm going to just share a little bit about his bio here. So, Jared was raised in Davis County, Utah, by two amazing parents, had a great start in life, spending 2 years as a student athletic at Snow College, followed by graduating from Weber State University at the age of 22. By age 24, he was a teacher and a head coach, football coach, holy cow, at a high school level in Arizona. And within the time span of only a couple years, he experienced the death of his father, death of a brother, and a wife. Holy cow. The wife was the divorce.
Yeah.
But that is a lot for anybody to take on. During this personal trauma, and he found himself abusing prescribed pain medications as a way to cope. This ultimately led to a full-blown addiction, which he struggled with for years, and he found himself homeless, ashamed, and embarrassed. And what you have here, through the grace of God, he was able to seek out help and not only get sober, but to stay sober. And there's more, but I think we'll get into this pretty much with your story. But you even, and we'll share this here at the end, because you even do a podcast now where you have addicts come in and different things, and you talk about, and you do that in St. George. But
yeah.
Share a little bit more about that journey. I mean, was it the deaths of the father and the brother, and then having that divorce that kind of tipped you over that edge? Because I know when my wife finally hit the peak and then just plummeted from there.
Yeah, so I think if you think of like building a building, right? Like it's all based off of a foundation, you know? And my foundation included those three people in my life, and when that foundation started to crumble, everything else just was exposed and was no good, right? So it was extremely hard. I had in my mind the narration in my mind, and we're going to talk about narrations and beliefs. The narration in my mind was that just the universe or God or what have you be was against me.
Yeah. And
so I was really good at being a victim for a really long time. And so that was my struggle. And yeah, opiates, the bad thing about addiction, and look, people, there's a reason why people get addicted to opiates. Okay, you don't, a 20-year-old kid who's got a college education, life experience, played sports, doesn't wake up one day and go, hey, I think I'll go snort an Oxycontin. Hey, I think I'll go slam some heroin. You know what I mean? Like that's just, that just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so, I had this mentality that I was too tough to talk about feelings. I had this mentality that, that wasn't the manly thing to do. And so I isolated, and I went through kind of just a period where I was super depressed, and I was being prescribed pain meds for like injuries. I've had a couple ankle surgeries, shoulder surgery. So, and it's funny enough, I was actually able to get through those surgeries and stop taking the pain meds. But I thought, I'm going to save these. You know, they're expensive, powerful narcotics. I'm going to save these for a rainy day. Threw them in a shoebox, top of my closet. Years went by, and it wasn't until I lost my dad. I lost my dad, and I kind of started realizing, like, hey, I had a lot of regrets, a lot of things like, man, you know, at the time I was coaching out in Arizona, and I've talked about this before. I was coaching out in Arizona, and I found out that you know, that he was getting close. He had been put on hospice. And I flew back and took him, and we went and did things that he would take me to do as a kid together. And Sunday rolled around, and he wanted me to stay for a couple more days. I remember helping him get ready to take me to the airport, go to dinner, take me to the airport. And he said, hey, you know, just stay for a couple days. I said, Dad, I can't. It's my first year as a head coach. You know, I got to get back. I had all these priorities and things in my mind. I'd worked really hard to be successful. And he ended up passing away a few days later.
Oh, wow.
So that guilt ate me up, you know, and that regret. And so, yeah, you know, I'm a country boy at heart, right? In my country boy head, if these things are good for physical pain, I can't sleep. You know, I have my thoughts are just racing. If I pop a couple of these, warm, fuzzy, and I can fall asleep. And that is how my addiction started. So,
wow.
And then with each one of those things, it just got worse, right? The death of my brother, my wife asking me for a divorce, which, look, that by no means is her fault. Like, that's my burden to bear, right? Like, I ruined that relationship, and that's something that I've had to take a good hard look at. And so, you know, nothing on her. She's amazing. She was an amazing wife. She's an amazing mom. That was all on me. But yeah, those were things that really kind of led me to the depths of my addiction.
You know, and I brought up in a show a few weeks ago, and you just touched on it. It's not like you wake up one day and go, I'm going to be an addict. I'm going to be the best damn addict I can be. I'm going to be the best one that anybody's ever seen. It takes that time, right? I mean, I watched a documentary with Johnny Cash, and somebody asked him the question, did you take pills? And he's like, yeah, I took pills. I took a lot of pills. And then one day I realized the pills took me.
Oh, yeah.
But by the time you realize that, you've already hit that peak. You're over the edge. You're already fallen. Because I watched that with my wife. We got married in 2009 in May of 2009, July of 2009, I lost my job at 24 years. August 2009, she lost her dad. Not too long after that, we lost our house, and that was her tipping tipping point. And this is a thing that I hope shows like yours, your podcast, and even this podcast, where people get to, hopefully that you just open their eyes, where there's nothing wrong with people who fall into the addiction. A lot of people, I think, have that stigma is that's just how they turned out. And from what I have been learning and understanding in the past umpteen years that I've been going through this with my wife, it's trauma. It's something that finally snaps inside you that kind of takes you. And we all have addictions. We all try to deal with things. You know, like when I start having a hard time, man, I love hitting the gym just because that's my frustration. That's where I let out my anger, my frustration.
Yeah. In therapy, we call that getting out of your head and into your body.
There you go. Yeah, I love that. But there are people who handle things differently. We're all different. And for you went to the pills and... Yeah, and, you know, my story, basically to kind of give... I want to come on here and basically let people relate to me. So I'll share the depths of my addiction took me to, you know, my divorce. After that, I kind of went from pills to heroin. It was cheaper. It was easier. And from that point, it took me to being homeless. My mom was strong enough, and finally I commend her for this actually, but she was actually strong enough to kick me out of her house. And I was homeless for a period of time. And July 3rd of 2014, I decided to take my own life.
And I was hit with Narcan 3 times, brought back. And I had some experiences that I haven't ever shared on during that overdose, because they're extremely spiritual to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want everybody to just think I'm crazy anyways. but it was an awakening.
Yeah.
It was an awakening for me, man. It really was. Like it sparked me. And yeah, you know, it's crazy. I've been doing this for 2 years. I've been talking for 2 years. And I think it's important for people to come on to programs like this and to share their story, because, listen, I cannot tell you how many emails or how many direct messages I've got from people that said, thank you for sharing your story. I could relate, and it gave me hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. And that's it. That is more powerful than anything, right? That is my story. The beautiful thing about my story is I don't like to spend a lot of time on the problem anymore. I like to spend time on the solution. And so my story, it's super dark, it's super heavy. And it took me to a point to where, yeah, I thought I was better off. And after my attempt, I actually got some pretty bracelets by the Salt Lake County PD. You ever got those?
Oh, yeah.
No, I haven't worn them personally.
Yeah.
I've seen
You
them.
haven't?
No.
They're super cute, right?
Yeah.
They make a noise when you put them on and
Yeah.
take them off.
And you can't
They got-
pull them apart.
No, can't pull them apart.
Yep,
It's-
yep.
Did you have the ones with the fuzzy stuff on it?
No, they were all out of those. You know, I asked. They were out of those. And the guy was like, hey, man, next time. And I was like, there probably will be one. Fair enough. You
Yeah,
know? And
yeah.
so, but yeah, no, but seriously, I went to jail after that. And look, I'm a product of treatment. You know, like, I don't know people's opinions, good, bad, or indifferent, but treatment works. And I'm an advocate for treatment. I work as a substance abuse counselor for Steps Recovery Centers. I also am over their family outreach program, so I do a lot of programming with the families, and I believe in it because I am a product of it. I went to jail for 6 months. I got sentenced to a year, 365 days, early release to the MRC program. I did 6 months on that 1 year sentence, and then I was released to treatment. And man, that's what gave me the start to my road into recovery. And it's taken a long time. And let me share this with you, because to me this blows my mind. Like, when I think about this, sometimes it even makes me emotional. I can think before things got super bad and before I got kicked out, I knew I had a problem. I knew I had a problem when I was invited to go to a family. It was like a family reunion or a family deal, and I'd planned out, okay, I got this many pills, you know, and I'm gonna make it last this long. And I get up there, and you know, addict Jared takes over, and I blew through the pills that were supposed to last me the entire weekend. So I had to like pick a fight with somebody or make up an excuse, I don't quite remember, but to leave to go get more, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just what you do when you're addicted to something. And that's when I knew. Like, that's when I knew I could not stop, because I couldn't even make them last. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And so, so I realized I had a problem, and yeah, especially like then the problem was I ran out of money, so I started, you know, doing the heroin thing, which was way worse. At that point, I should have just reached out for help. Again, it's all my ego edging God out. Like, that was me. Like it was the Jared program, and I just didn't have, you know, I wasn't humble enough to say I need help, right? So it went deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's a point in time when I called so I had an aunt that lived in St. George, and I loved St. George. And I had a point that I thought, you know what? I just kind of had some intuition, and I was like, I want to go to St. George and go to treatment. And I remember calling every single treatment center in St. George. And at the time, I didn't have insurance and didn't understand how that whole thing worked. And I didn't have $30,000 in cash to go to treatment. Well, today, 7 years later, I freaking work for one of those treatment centers. Like, that to me is God's grace. That to me shows where you can come from and where you can go. And not only do I work for one of those... Sorry, man.
No, don't be sorry. We all do it here on this show, so don't apologize.
So not only do I work for one of those treatment centers, but they're like family.
Yeah.
They are. They, you know, the shirts you guys got on. I'm driving down here, you know, I call up Kevin Thacker. I'm like, hey, man, I'm going on a podcast. Get me some gear. And he's like, cool. Pull off the Ormex and I got you, right? Like just I don't know, other places, like when I've worked at other places before, it wasn't that kind of a connection. It wasn't that closeness, that brotherhood, that bond, you know? Yeah. And so yeah, like I appreciate them. I love them. They're amazing. It's crazy. And so what we're talking about now is life in recovery, right? Like my life in recovery, fast forward 7 years, it's insane. Like if you would have told me when I was loading up that heroin to get ready to try to kill myself, that one day I could have, remarried, a house, a career, surrounded by a team of people, that love me and are like family, I would have told you were nuts. Like I legitimately would have been like, look, dude, I thought I had a mental health problem. You've got a mental health problem, right? But that's it. That's my reality. And it's just crazy. One piece of advice I would give people in early recovery is you've got to find your group of people. You've got to find your tribe, right? And you got to stick to them. It's crazy. I'm kind of in the internship portion of where I got to get my hours, right? I'm doing the schooling thing. And Shlee Webb, our clinical director, like she's amazing. She has 20 years of experience and knowledge that she shares with me. And then like I turn around and push her, right? I made her come on my podcast and she's writing a book, and she was talking to me about it. And I said to her, Shlee, people do the audio version more than the book version, right? And she's like, oh, that's great. So anyways, now she's doing the audio and video, the audio and the writing portion of her book.
Okay.
I told her I was going to do this, so I'm going to give her a shout out. So her book that she's writing is The Girl Who Couldn't Cry, A Healing Journey Through Trauma. And I promise you it's going to be amazing. If you know Shlee Webb, it's going to be a phenomenal book. So hit her up, find her on Facebook, find her on social media, and tell her you want a copy of that book. But it's just cool. Like, it's crazy to me that 7 years ago, you just got done sharing the depths of my addiction to today, a life in recovery. Blows my mind, dude.
Being we're in the position that you're at right now, this has had to be very therapeutic even for you to even go further in your recovery, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I just can't imagine, and I know a lot of people that work in rehabs. I don't know in person. I'm just saying I know a lot of people that work in rehabs have come from those depths of addiction, which I think is phenomenal because us on the other side, like I used to tell my wife all the time, it's like, I thought I knew it. I didn't know shit. I mean, seriously, I didn't know, and she would tell me, you don't have a clue. But for those who are working in these places, you guys have gone through it. So you know exactly the people that are there getting the help.
Yeah.
You know what they're feeling inside, and the pain and the anger and the hurt and the confusion, right?
Yeah, you definitely have a lot more empathy for people. And it's crazy, Al. Like, so 2 years ago, I actually was working in construction. I'd worked out in the oil field for a portion of time, and I wanted to move back to St. George to get out of the cold, right? When it's negative 40 and snowing sideways, you decide real fast that you don't want to be in that kind of weather. And so I moved back to Utah, and I moved to St. George, and I'm trying to rebuild my life, a stable life, something, that, again, I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, and he's like, identify, what's important to you. And so I did that. And so I wanted to get remarried, and I wanted the house, and I wanted the life that I have today sitting in this chair. And so I started making a plan to make that happen. And so I took the first job I could get, and I'm driving a rock truck, right? A gravel truck. And I'm just listening to the radio. And at this time, I didn't really ever talk about addiction. I was a closet recovery person, right? Like I didn't let people know, outside of the fellowships, I didn't let anybody know. And I'm listening to the radio, and an advertisement comes on actually by Steps. It says, addicts helping other addicts. And dude, I kid you not, you've seen I can be an emotional guy. I had to pull that rig over. I pulled it over on the side of the road because just something, right? God's tuition, like something hit me. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And just the thought of the depths of where I'd come from to be able to inject some hope and some inspiration and some motivation, some help to an individual that had gone through any version of what I had been through was like, yeah. So it's crazy. Like, I joke all the time and I say this, but I'm totally serious. Like,
Yeah.
they pay me to do this. Like, don't tell Paul and Ty this, but I would do this for free, right? Like, I love this. This is...
We'll have to cut this one out.
right.
Brad, make sure we cut that part out.
You talk about a life hack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I got a life hack going on here. Like, I got a family of people that love me and support me. I'm doing something I would do for free that I'm passionate about. Like, recovery needs to be about what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
It really does.
And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, and have people like our past co-host Lori and JD who's coming in, and because it needs to be talked about. I mean,
Absolutely.
it really. So your show, this show, Todd Sylvester's show.
So I worked with Todd Sylvester.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple times.
He's
Yeah.
a phenomenal guy, isn't he?
Yeah, phenomenal guy. Made me realize that I had a lot of broken beliefs, and that was actually when I was in recovery. But I was sober, but I was still very sick.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like this undeserving complex. Like I've done all these terrible things. I don't deserve a good life. That was kind of like my perspective at the time, and he helped kind of get me through that. So shout out to Todd Sylvester, great dude.
And we were just talking about that on another show about deserving, how we beat ourselves up that we don't deserve better things in life. One thing, did you have something,
I was
Jamie?
going to add to that and stuff, and I think there's points and stuff where you feel like you do, in your mind, you're like, I deserve better, right? But internally, your belief system and what you're trying to tell yourself don't line up. And then you question it, like, you're like, yeah, I probably don't deserve this, you know?
Yeah.
Right now you're talking about the subconscious and the conscious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like in your conscious mind, you go, man, my life should be better. I should deserve things better. But if you have a deep belief that you don't deserve it, your subconscious, like, that's going to override that cognitive programming all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely will. Now, accountability. I want to bring up accountability. What I have been finding out by going to a lot of AA meetings with my wife, and even through her own recovery, that's a tough one,
Yeah.
right? Accountability to say, hey,
But it's beautiful.
once you figure it out, right?
That's what changed my life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you would have had Jared Miller, the addict, on here, or even at some phases in my early recovery, you know, it would have been your fault, Al. It would have been your fault, DJ. Like JD. Sorry, JD.
That's all right. We got it.
It would have been maybe it would have been Brad's fault. You know, it would have been everybody else's fault, but my fault.
Yeah.
And the accountability piece was huge for me. You know what changed it for me is I read a book. So I read a book, and I've talked about this before, but I love it, so it's fine. Extreme Ownership by Jacko Willington Leaf Babin. And, you know, my mom, bless her heart, was one to really help me kind of get my life back together. She threw me on my butt when I needed it, and I love her for that. I probably would be dead if she hadn't have done that. So family members, if you're listening, I promise, maybe we'll get into some family programming stuff. But so she used to call me for the accountability piece, right? Like third-party accountability. Hey, Jared, where you at? I'm at the gym. Are you really at the gym, though? And, oh, man, JD, that used to drive me nuts, right? Like, first of all, I'm a 20-something-year-old kid at the time, late 20s, and I'm like, Mom, you do this all the time, blah, blah. I'm already struggling with triggers and addiction, and, you know, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And here you are, and you don't believe me, and I might as well be using anyways, and blah, blah, blah. And this was, you know, the narration that went on. And I read that book, and I finally, something hit me, and I was like, the reason why she doesn't trust me is because I've trained her not to trust me. Weird.
Yeah.
Right? Weird. But the beautiful part of that is, if I've trained her not to trust me, guess what I can do?
You can train her to trust you.
I can retrain her to trust me. Patience and time, right?
Yeah.
And so the phone calls from that point on went like this. Hey, Jared, where are you at? I'm at the gym. Are you really at the gym, though? I am, Mom. Can I send you a picture? Do you want me to send you a pin drop? Like, how can I help you to be able to trust me more? Because I realize that this is my fault. You don't trust me. So how can I make it better?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she may have had like a heart attack the first time she ever heard that come out of my mouth. But like, that's the reality of it, guys, is you have to take accountability. Absolutely. And it's freeing too. Like, when I can come on here and say, yeah, I ruined my marriage. Yes, I was homeless. Yes, I did try to commit suicide. This isn't the stigma around addiction, which I hope we talk about too, is so powerful that not a lot of people are willing to do that.
Right. They're not.
But by me doing that, it's kind of like that Eminem video he made, 8 Mile. It's like, tell these people something that they don't know about me. I've already told. I've already taken accountability for the things that I've done. So today I have a clear conscience. When I meet people, I don't worry, oh man, is this person going to find out that I struggled with the heroin addiction? Is this person going to find out that my life got so bad that I was homeless? Is this person going to find out that my life was so pathetic I tried killing myself? I don't have to worry about that. I don't, because it's like, even if they find out, cool. Like, that's part of my journey. I can own that.
It seems like if people do find out when you bring it out in the open, it's almost like water under the bridge to them. I mean, that's how it seems to me, because when I first started sharing my story, thanks to a friend who finally told me, look, you got to start talking about this. I've done a lot of networking in the past few years, and I've gotten to know a lot of people. There were people that were literally pulling me off the side going, hey, can I talk to you for a bit? Men and women. I'm like, yeah, sure, and would go off away from people. And they're like, hey, I don't know if you knew, but I used to be an addict. I'm like, what?
Right.
Are you kidding?
Right.
I've known you for 6 years.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, it was just like, whoosh. Okay, you was an addict,
Right.
but it was so cool that they were opening up and telling me these things. I mean, I went to an AA meeting and ran into a guy that I've been networking with, and I went to an AA meeting with my wife, and I walk in, I went, holy crap, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
And he's like, don't be telling me, but hey, you know, AA meetings are quiet, you know, it's none of my business.
Anonymity.
You know, it's your choice to talk about it, not me to tell people about it. But
Well,
we walk among you. 1 in 3 of us has struggled with the substance use disorder. We walk among you. We're here. And guess what? It's just like diabetes. Like, we'll get into it. Sorry.
No. I was just going to bring into that, you know, again, the fact of that, how many people out there, you know, like where you're at, you have nothing that it's out there on the table. You've put it out. You shared your story, you know, and same thing, Al, you've lifted off that brick off your shoulders, you know, same thing with me, you know, it's like somebody comes and says something to you too. It's like, you know, I think a lot of people too in that aspect don't want to share it because they're afraid people will use it against them.
Right.
You know, and having that, like if somebody come back and they said something to me, I'm like, that's cool. You know?
No, but like if somebody wants to judge me or somebody wants to treat me a certain way based on something I did 7 years ago, I don't need that person in my life.
yeah, it's on them.
I matter of fact, please don't be in my life. I'd rather not surround myself with those kind of people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And check it out. There's 4 of us in this room right now, and all 4 of us, addiction has touched our life in some way. So why do we stigmatize it? Let me share something with you real quick. So I got a guy named Joe, okay? My buddy Joe, sorry, I gotta clear my throat. Too much Red Bull.
Yeah.
My buddy Joe, okay? He, you know, he passed away. He had diabetes, and he just didn't have the willpower. Like, he was overweight, and he was heavy, and he didn't take care of himself, and he was too lazy to go to the gym, and he just wasn't strong enough. He just had these demons with food and sugar, and he just didn't have the willpower to overcome it. And so sadly, he died because he had diabetes and put on a lot of weight, and he died from coronary, you know, a heart attack. We don't ever hear that, right?
No.
But we do the same thing with addiction.
Yeah.
Like,
you're right.
oh, little Susie, she had these demons and she just couldn't overcome it, and she just wasn't strong enough and didn't have enough willpower, and that's all crap. It's crap, right? Like, it's not willpower. Will has nothing to do with it, okay? Like, it has to do with, this is a disease.
Right.
It is a disease. It hijacks your brain. It makes it so, there's a joke in the industry, thank God that breathing is subconscious, because addiction is so powerful, it may even override your priority list to breathe.
Yeah.
Food is less important. Career is less important. Family is less important. And it's not because they don't have the willpower, it's because they have a disease of the mind, guys. Right? Like, so we've got to get past this whole, basically where it comes from is the moral theory, that people are just morally corrupt. They're not morally. I know a lot of addicts, and I know a lot of addicts in recovery. They're great people. They're not morally corrupt.
No. Yeah.
And that comes from back in the day, there was a thing called a temperance movement. Okay? And basically, it was like around the early 1900s, maybe 1862 to 1919, the temperance movement, where alcohol started getting out of control, okay? And society started seeing a lot of domestic violence and public intoxication. And so clergy, with good intentions, I'm sure, said, hey, to be a good, moral, upstanding person, you need to slow down your drinking and not get so drunk and intoxicated, as a way to try to help society. Well, what that turned into is, of course, you play telephone, right? So the message that went out in society's view then became, if you can't control your drinking, you're a morally bankrupt person because you're not meeting the standards of a moral person does this.
Yeah.
That's where that whole theory is born from. And then you fast forward to like 1971, and President Nixon decides to just announce all-out war on drugs. Now, not only are you immoral, you are a criminal, right? And you are a terrible person. We're going to throw you in jail. We're sick people, right? Fast forward to 1996, they came out with HIPAA because they started realizing this war on drug is not working. Mm-hmm. It's not working.
It hasn't done anything.
No. People go to jail. They have forced clean time. They get out. They relapse. And that is because they are still sick in their mind. So finally they say, okay, confidentiality, right? 42 CRF Part 2, confidentiality, HIPAA. Like, we don't talk about it. We'll respect your privacy if you reach out for treatment. Because people were just flat out not pursuing treatment, even when they needed help, because they were afraid of that stupid stigma. Does that make sense?
And going to jail.
Yeah, and going to jail. Exactly. Like, it's got to go. The moral theory is outdated. If you look at your neighbor who struggles with a substance abuse problem and you think they're an immoral person, you are just not educated on the subject. And I love you, but it's 2021. Let's bring it up to speed. Let's get out of the 1800s.
I have to agree with you on that because my wife, of course, during her alcoholism, she got in a lot of trouble in different areas around the valley. One of the judges that she dealt with, I mean, this guy, that's just basically, I think, how he saw people with addiction. I mean, when COVID hit, she would have to do some of her court stuff over the phone, and I'd be right next to her. And she would just be talking just like I'm talking to you guys. And he was always say, do I hear that you're getting a little cocky? And it's like, the hell is he coming up with that? She's just talking to him, but it's just how, and he kept threatening her. I mean, she was looking at going to jail here, even though now she's got a job. And if it wasn't for her PO getting on the phone and going, look, she's doing incredible. And he even said, well, he said you were doing well. Okay, it was incredible. But I was ready to send you to jail.
Yeah.
And it's like, this woman hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
I mean, what she did has been a year and a half ago, and you were still looking at throwing her in jail.
Yeah.
And I love what Mallory said when she was on the show with her P.O. Chuck. She doesn't want to be punished in recovery. She wants to be, what word am I looking for? Gosh, I know it, and I've just lost it. Inspired into recovery. Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap, she hit the nail on the head.
That's why we're doing what we're doing today, guys.
Yeah.
Number 1, decrease the stigma. Number 2, inspire some people. Life is better in recovery. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And the other thing, too, is, like, jail didn't help me. It was forced abstinence time. And maybe in some way it did, because it allowed me to have enough clean time to absorb treatment when I went there, right? Like, I didn't go there half-cocked. Like, I was pretty clear. The clouds had rolled out.
Yeah.
I had the gravity or the weight of my decisions while I was under the influence set in. And so, yeah, that's why I'm such an advocate for get help. And have you seen the show 3 Days? Or what's that one where the mom's basically winging the daughter off of heroin?
Oh, it's the one with, what's her name?
Days.
Ashton Kutcher's wife. I know which one you're talking about. Me and my wife want to watch it.
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
She gets into heroin, right?
Yeah, great show. And if you just watch the sickness that happens in that family dynamic, that is why you get insurance, and that is why you send your loved one to professionals.
Yeah.
It like, not only that, but then they don't go a couple days without using and then reuse and then end up dead because their tolerance has gone down and they overdose. So the other thing too we were talking about with the whole thing is I've heard people, you know, have kind of the outlook of a negative outlook. Well, addicts, you know, they get into crimes, they steal, they do things like this, right? And that's true. And I can't really, like, when I debate that, I can't really come up with anything other than if it wasn't stigmatized so bad, maybe they wouldn't have to go to those lengths because they're afraid of being stigmatized and afraid to say, hey, I have a problem, I need help. And I don't know, maybe that's just wishful thinking, but it makes sense in my mind.
Yeah.
If I would have known and if there would have been options to get treatment, maybe I wouldn't have, 7 shoplifting tickets on my record. Don't judge me. It happened. One was a Mountain Dew.
Oh.
Right? When it's hot and you're homeless, you go into Smith's off of North Temple and you drink a Mountain Dew and have a security officer say, "Hey, bud, I need you to stay here."
Wow.
Good times.
Well, let's take a quick break.
Really quick, I wanted to go
JD.
back to right to the beginning too, what you were talking about really fast, and because I'm trying to relate and be able to help even what I've been going through.
I love it.
But you talk about, obviously your dad, your brother, your divorce, you had your surgery stuff. Obviously, it was just one of those things like help you sleep, almost like a numb, right? I'm just gonna ask on your honest belief. I've heard this and I try to take it with a grain of salt. It's not an excuse, or it is, but that it's blamed on hereditary. Is that real, or do you believe that it still stems from a deeper problem?
No, it's absolutely, there's a genetic component to it, right? So my great grandpa struggled with alcohol. Sorry, Mom. Hope I'm not letting any skeletons out the closet here, right? I got to be careful because my family has feelings too. But it is a genetic thing. So if you're genetically predisposed to developing an addiction, yeah, you're more likely to have that happen. And it's not, look, I'm not on here today to make up excuses for anybody. I've said that it's not the addict's responsibility that they have a disease, but then I'm also going to say, but it is their responsibility to stay clean. It's their responsibility to move into treatment. If I have cancer and I get treatment and I put my cancer in remission, I couldn't, right? That's stuff that I couldn't have helped that. If I'm genetically predisposed to become an alcoholic and we all are 21, 16, whatever, who knows? We'll say 21 to be legal. We all go to the bar and we all take a shot right now, and you guys don't have addiction in your family, and I do, and you guys can wake up the next day and think, oh, that was fun, whatever, I got to go to work, I got to go do social things, and I wake up the next day and go, I've got to do that again, and again, and again, and again, and again. That wasn't a choice, right? I guess in theory we could say, hypothetically, everybody stays abstinent forever and never tries anything one time, and then that would cure it, but that's not realistic.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Well, like I said, the reason why I was asked, because, again, stuff that I've battled with my wife, and that's been one, again, her dad having alcohol issues, and, it's also, too, been on my side. I've, again, that will, of trying to fight things, and I've fallen into some deep places, but trying to understand that, because I've always felt in my belief, and this is obviously being here and with what happened with my sister when my sister passed away from an OD a year and a half ago. Always in my head, just being that strong, bold-headed person, I'm like, you've always had a choice, and it's like you said, that subconscious, though, understanding that, and that's why I was asking, I've heard that, oh, well, it's hereditary. But then also too, I love my wife dearly, but she went through that phase of the raves and the parties and the recreational and the experimental fun things that were out there, which I felt didn't help either. And
so I think yes, they do have a choice, and you're absolutely right. However, they are far more likely to become addicted if they have a genetic predisposition. And so a lot of times what happens is that genetic thing is laying there, and you do something and you already have traumas going on in your life or stress or whatever it is, things that affect your mental health, and your brain it gets that dopamine rush, right? Mm-hmm. And your brain goes, this is the answer we've been looking for.
The relief that I feel good.
I could feel like this all the time. Yeah. And that's the hijacking of the brain. Maybe we'll get back into it when we come back from break. But
I definitely want to go back into that, because I think that's when the choice is gone.
Yeah, and
that's what I think anyway.
Was it your sister?
Yeah, my sister, she Oxycontin.
Yeah, and your sister, I'm sure your sister loved you.
I've taught to. So when you talked about your spiritual side, I went I'm a very big believer. So I taught to medium and stuff. I've had my connection with her afterwards. So no, I know she's in a very great place. She took all of her power back. She's helping tons of people with the same issue.
And there's no shame in that. Just like if she would have passed away from cancer, she had a disease. She had something that she struggled with, and unfortunately for some of us, it's terminal.
Yeah, it's a shame. Guys, we've had some good stuff. We're going to take a quick little break, and we'll be right back.
How do you start your morning? Start it with a cup of High Point coffee. Because no matter where you go or what you do, it's always better with coffee. High Point coffee. What's your high point? Located on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road in West Jordan. And a special thanks goes out to our partners in Oxford, Mississippi.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest, Jared Miller. We had some good stuff, and before we move on, I want to be sure to say thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, Steve at High Point Coffee, in 7800 South in Redwood Road in West Jordan. These guys are phenomenal. Gregory and his lovely wife, Tosh, thank you, Lift Up Concrete, for all your support and for believing in what we are doing. We also want to say thanks to Brad. He is the owner of Serve Pro West Jordan and St. George. But we want to thank all Serve Pros from Ogden all the way down to St. George. Thank you guys for your support and believing in our cause. We are just so grateful for you, and none of this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for you, and also with Brad Neufeld, the owner of Resilience Talk Network. So guys, thank you so much. And I'm just going to shoot it out right now before I forget. I gotta thank Jared for these flipping awesome T-shirts, man.
Right? I'm pretty stoked about this.
Yeah.
Therapy is cool.
Therapy is cool. and you know, that just doesn't go for those who are battling addictions. I mean, therapy is great for us who have been on the other side, because I tell you what, I needed it, you know, and unfortunately some of the ones that I went to, it just wasn't a fit for me. I'm not saying that they do not work, because every individual is different. Because I know people who have gone to these that it's worked really well for. It just wasn't a fit for me. But there are a lot of different places out there that you can go if you just look. And we are getting there to where we've got some people reaching out to us, and so we're gonna have some great information.
You know, maybe I wouldn't have gone. Sorry,
no, go
go
ahead.
Maybe I wouldn't have gone to the depths that I went to had I been proactive and not cared about the stigma or being a tough guy mentality, right?
Yeah.
And go and get help. And we do. So STEPS does substance abuse disorder as well as mental health issues. We have Annie's House in Draper that takes on clients that, look, there's some people out there that cut or pick or have mental health problems that we can help overcome those. So yeah. Great. Or, you know, marriage and family counseling. We do a family program. Like, yeah, absolutely. And you touched on something real quick. I'm sorry, but
no, you're good. This is your show.
So I love all the people that participate in our family programming. Some of the people that need the most help because they're built up, the pressure's built up like a hot air balloon, are the families.
Amen.
Because this is a family disease, and they need somebody to talk to just as much as their loved one did. And that's no knock on them. It doesn't mean they're weak. It means they're going through some stuff. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard for us to understand because we're not in those shoes. We think we do, and then we get advice from, if we do talk about it to whoever, we get advice coming fripping all over.
And then you know what it's hard, as the IP, we call IP identified patient, right? Whether you're mental health type or substance abuse type. The tough thing is we go and we get treatment and we start feeling like things are getting better, and then we're reintroduced back to our family. The familial
goes right back down, doesn't it?
And then we're smack face reminded. It's like time doesn't stop for them, right? Because they still have their feelings and all the things they're holding on to, and we're like this sponge that got wrung out, and we're dry and ready for some new stuff. And the families are that soaked sponge that's still dripping and just waiting, right? Like that's the hardest thing to overcome. Like, and we have this expectation is like, hey, I did treatment. I got these cool coins, right? Like I'm a different person now. Oh no, you're not. Remember when, right? And so it's like going through. Yeah, you get it.
They throw the past right back at you, and you're trying to forget that past.
And rightfully so. They still have all those feelings and emotions that they haven't processed. They haven't worked through. They don't have a support system. They don't get it.
No, they don't. So before the break, we were talking about choice.
Yeah.
Now,
choice.
I did this Facebook thing, again, where I was talking about my wife's addiction, and there was a few people that responded to it. And I've learned in my years, I was going to kind of thrash back out at them, but I've learned that's not going to do any good. So I took quite a few days before I actually made a response, but I didn't respond to each one. I just kind of made a response. But so, and I think you brought it up, Jared, maybe at the start there is a choice, but then like you said, that brain hijacks you. So it's like I was telling somebody one time before, I'm like, I could have a bad day at work and go, I'm going to go home and have a cocktail, whiskey and a Coke. By the time I get home, I'm not interested.
Sure.
But for somebody that's fighting addiction,
or even if you were and you did consume it, you could wake up the next day and feel like, okay, that's done and gone, and I'm on to something else.
I don't need anything else.
The obsession doesn't set in for you.
Right.
Yep.
But for somebody that's in my wife's shoes, because she's even told me there are times so bad that I'm like, I'm not going to. But it's almost like somebody's squeezing her throat, choking her, to where finally she's like, okay.
Yep.
And it's because of that brain, that subconscious is constantly beating you, going, oh, no, you need this. No, you're not going to survive. You won't make it through the night, or you won't make it through the day, right? Now, that's when there is no choice.
Right, absolutely.
Right?
So here's basically what happens is in a healthy brain, we all produce dopamine. Okay, you eat chocolate cake, and you produce dopamine, right? Your brain goes, yeah, I like that stuff. That's good.
I'm
man.
that way
I feel
with ice
good.
cream.
Oh yeah, baby, right? So let's say a normal dopamine rush, we'll just throw a number on there, not that it means anything, but let's say that's 40, okay? 40 spike. Well, somebody who is going through some tough things, right? And they drink for the first time, and they're genetically predisposed to alcoholism or whatever, right? Whatever their DOC or drug of choice is, their dopamine releases a crazy amount of dopamine, like 1,000 instead of just 40. Okay, so when your body when your brain gets that much dopamine, it becomes so powerful to you that you can't really overcome it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I used the word obsession earlier, right? They have something different than normies. They get a thing called obsession, where they can go periods of time with abstinence, but they have that obsession that goes, hey, you know what we could be doing? Hey, you know what you should do? Hey, you get off at 5.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, nobody would notice if you just put a little bottle in your purse and did it at work. You breath mints, right? And they constantly have to fight the obsession in their head, and that's the difference. Not everybody experiences that. And I used to get super upset with people when they would make comments like that, right? Because like you don't understand. And thank God you don't. Right? Thank God that you don't understand it. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but you can't sit from your perspective and judge somebody on this side. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I promise you that individual has their own problems. Okay? When I work with the families and they say, I just don't understand, I just can't get it, it doesn't make any sense. I say, okay, careful. Because I promise when you get stressed, my sweet mom, when she's stressed, she goes to Diet Coke. Okay. How many of us, when we're driving home from work and we've had a stressful day, I'm just going to stop and get fast food. I don't want to have to cook. I don't want to have to, right? Those are all things that give us that dopamine rush that make us feel warm and happy and, right? Life's better now. Same concept, just on a different scale. So here's your brain. Everybody go like this, make a fist. Okay. Tuck your thumb in. So here's your brain. Your frontal cortex is the rational decision-making part of the brain. It says, we got rent. It's due on the 1st. We have to make rent or we're going to get kicked out. Okay? And a healthy brain flows like this, right? In the priorities. This tells the rest of these things what to do. Well, underneath right here, you have what's called the reptilian part of the brain. That's where dopamine's released, right? And it's also where the reward center of the brain. What happens is when that dopamine rush starts going, this starts to overpower this. Okay, your reptilian brain starts to overpower your frontal cortex. So instead of it flowing healthy like this and you're making good decisions and everything's going great, it starts flowing backwards. To where
now that I did not know.
Your body's responsible and your brain's responsible for survival, and it starts to relate survival with consumption of your drug of choice, whether it's alcohol, heroin, doesn't matter. And it gets to the point where, again, because it's so overpowering, the human brain isn't meant to get such a huge dopamine spike that it will actually hijack, and that's why we use the word hijack, the frontal cortex, that front part of your brain that's the rational decision-making part of the brain. Hey, if I don't quit, the courts are telling me if I don't quit, I'm going to lose my kids. Well, when you equate using with living and surviving, guess what you're going to do? If you don't get help, you're going to lose your kids. Because like I said, thank God that breathing is subconscious. Otherwise, it would overpower breathing. It would become more important than breathing.
Yeah.
And this has been proven. Scientifically, this isn't the theory of Jared. 2021, right? Get some information. This is what happens in the brain. Pleasure Unwoven by Kevin. Oh, man. What's his last name? Check it out. Go to YouTube. Punch in Pleasure Unwoven. One of his sub videos is actually the choice, kind of argument. So, yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Kevin McCauley.
Kevin McCauley. Thank you. Resource.
Yeah, he Googled it right up.
Boom.
Man.
JD.
Yeah, he was on top of it.
Yeah, no, again, stuff like that. But talking about dopamines, and it was just like our guest last week talking about the neurons, how they fire in your brain, and you've got those pathways, Things are getting retrained and redeveloped with that dopamine spike.
Well, and check it out. Sorry, were you...
No, go ahead. I was just relating.
Even normies do this. Okay? So when I was a kid, I would go to Hostess with my dad, and I love my dad, and my dad's my hero, okay? And we would go to Hostess. It was our thing, and we would get day-old bread, and we would get, the little Hostess snacks.
Twinkies and stuff.
Boom. That was my deal. Twinkies, right? Twinkies.
Yep.
Okay, so I went to college originally to become a strength conditioning coach, and that's how I went into coaching football and all that. So one day I'm sitting, and I got a box of Twinkies, and I can't control myself with Twinkies, guys, and I don't understand why. And one day I'm sitting there, and I'm halfway through a box of Twinkies, and I say to myself, what is it about this thing that is so appealing? Like, when you actually look at it, it's pretty disgusting, right? It looks like an old sponge with like some foam stuff in it. Like, it's not very appealing, actually.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about, like, I equate that to memories of my father. So it's a comforting thing to me. Right?
Makes sense.
And if you have a trauma that's happened in your life and you find a solution for it in substances, you start to equate those substances with comfort and survival. That is the power of addiction.
Yeah.
And normies do that too. I promise you, if you think about some of the things and you really think about, why do I do this? This is kind of disgusting, or this doesn't really make sense, or why do I like this so much? I promise you it traces back to memories of bonding, right, of traditions. Like, my family has a lot of Christmas traditions, right? And those things, it's not necessarily the food or it's the emotions attached to it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I can relate heavy to that. My sister that passed away, she was 26, but she, like, as the family just grew up, got older, like, we used to hold a 4th of July tradition, having breakfast every year, and, like, Christmas, Easter, she was still always, like, that little kid, like, I'd get upset there wasn't an Easter basket, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Easter
but
egg hunt.
it wasn't because of the holiday, and you actually just brought this to light to me, because I felt bad. I actually feel bad right now, because I was, like, in my mind, I'm like, you're 24 freaking years old. It's time to, like, leave this to the little kids, Like, that's how I was. Because, like, as you get older, you're like, shit, Christmas was, like, last month. I swear, Like, I just, now I got to spend all of it again.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. But it wasn't the fact of it was Christmas. And you just actually opened my eyes to that. So thank you. I really do appreciate that. But my sister, she was very big on, and it wasn't because of the gifts and all the crap that came with the holidays. It was the fact of the family. It was like the happiest moments of our lives when our family felt whole before it was blown apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I like how you're bringing this out, Jared, because, again, people don't understand. We all have an addiction.
Absolutely.
One way or another, if you really stop and you think about it, we're all battling something. When I was talking to my aunt, she goes, I don't have any right to talk bad about your wife because I have an addiction with chocolate. I just cannot stay away from chocolate. If I see it, I've got to eat it. It's just like with a drug or an alcohol or porn or whatever it is that you're gambling.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So as a clinician, I mess with people all the time, right? They say, are you really 7 years clean? And I say, dude, I get high every day. And they look at me a little crazy.
Like you're nuts.
And I go, I hit the gym and I get a mad rush of endorphins and dopamine.
Yeah.
Right? The gym is an addiction for me.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, knowledge, education. Like, yeah, we all have, listen, it all can be brought back to dopamine. Anything that you do that boosts your dopamine, right? That feel good drug, that it's an addiction.
And, go ahead,
Well,
Jared.
an addiction is, let me clarify. Okay, I don't know why my alarm. Okay, let me clarify. An addiction is anything that you do impulsively that turns out negative behaviors that you continue to do despite those negative behaviors. So again, if you're overweight and you keep eating fast food, that's an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
If you are watching porn and it's starting to affect your intimate love life with your significant other, that's an addiction. If you're shopping but you're broke and you're having to put it on a credit card, that is an addiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
I was gonna ask on the dopamine and stuff, and I mean that was one thing. Like, I've done a lot better, but that was one thing like I used to cope. Honestly, it was like because I grew up in poverty, like no money, like broke.
Me too, bro.
You know what I
love
mean?
it.
So like now, even recently and stuff, and I have to get better at it. Like that's financial stresses in my life right now. I'm trying to just work through it as well as, I mean, I want to do my purpose, you know. But with that being said, like, I'd go through the moments where I get money or I finally get a paycheck and I'm like, shit, I haven't had this kind of money before. Like, I need to go spend it before somebody else takes it from me, you know.
Yeah.
That is that addiction, you know. And I still have gone through that. Like, there's moments and stuff where it's a problem with me and my wife, and not that it happened this year, but I mean, I've gone out and I'm like, okay, well, kiss my butt. I'm going to buy a new gun, you know. Like, that's,
So JD, this is what I do for a living, bro. So now that you say that, think back to your sister.
mm-hmm.
And all those kind of feelings of frustrations and not understanding, and right, and maybe a little bit of judgment, maybe not, I don't know. It's like a t-shirt. If it fits, wear it. If not, take it off. That's totally cool. Can you now relate a little bit more? Can you now have a little more, you know, a little more understanding, a little more empathy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at that point, it becomes easier, right?
No, yeah. Well, and, I mean, with that, you know, having that understanding and stuff, like I said, you've pointed out a lot of things here, and it just helps amplify, you know, what I've gone through. Because when things started to blow apart, I mean, long story short, but I mean, it started out, I was molested by a grandpa, you know.
I'm sorry.
Things went through,
Yeah.
mom with an alcoholic. I watched that abuse happen in the house. And then the guy that got in drugs and stuff, and it's like I gave up my whole everything. My scholarship for baseball, I gave up everything for my family.
Yeah.
And it completely blew apart. 15 years old to 17 years old, I remember sitting there in principal's office because I had to go to work full-time my senior year and go to night school so I could graduate. And when I sat down at that talk, they told me, hey, if you do this, you're giving up the scholarship because you can't be on the team. He's like, I'm sorry for the decision you got to make. But, like, and I felt like helpless because I didn't feel like I had anybody to help. Like, I had to make this decision.
Yeah.
And
Thank
so,
you
I mean,
for sharing
I
that,
bawled
bro.
for 2 weeks, gave up everything, but I went and did it for my brothers and my sisters, you know? And so...
Dude, love you, bro. Thanks for the vulnerability of sharing that.
But going through, like, all that stuff, like, you know, when my dad got into drugs and my mom went down the opioid hole, and then later on my sister, like, what got her, she went through depression, and the things she went on, she was being told that she slept with the principal, like, that was all going around school, like, a whole bunch of bad things. She would eat her lunch food in the bathroom stall. Like, that's how bad it got.
Man.
And so, like, understanding it from where, you know, the understanding, like, I had addictions, I had problems, and my addiction eventually became, like, it was their addiction, you know? Like, I was addicted to why can't you be fixed?
Codependency.
Yeah, you know? And so, but that's how I handled things, was, like, it was money. Like, that's, I wasn't ever, you know, not that I was ever financially, but I also, too, was never a person, like, if I had money, like, if somebody else needed it more than I did, it was like, I can go make more. Here, you obviously need this more than I do. I can, and that's how I've always been. Because every time Christmas comes around, they're like, I don't know how you do it, but you just shit out like $3,000 to $5,000. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, I don't know either, man. It's just
you and I are gonna have to talk.
And that's super cool of you. But JD, you know, that is a form of codependency, right?
Yeah.
Codependency is I can't be happy unless you're happy.
making someone else happy.
I can't be happy, or I can't have self-esteem unless you validate me, right?
Yeah.
And we all, look, I'm not passing judgment. We all have some form of codependency. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
But yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of became your thing, was helping your family out to try to rebuild them, and right? And
Well,
with the most loving intentions.
And you just brought something up, because I've been reading the book again, Letting Go, by David Hawkins. But
Great book.
he talked about codependency, you know, and being that way. But I've always a fight and struggled with the fact that I feel like I always got to prove somebody, you know, and looking for that. What's the right word? When they accepted or
Validation.
validation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you did a good job. You did the right thing. You know, I've always have fought from that, from the people I've worked for, to my parents, to the people. And I'm like, you know, I've come even just recently in the last few months. I'm like, you know, I have nothing else to prove to anybody else. I got to prove it to myself.
You're waiting for that approval stamp, and I did that for years with my dad. I kept trying to get that approval, and it didn't matter what I did, you know, and unfortunately he and I kind of had a fallout about 5 years ago, and we haven't spoke or even seen each other since then.
You got to stop that.
And I've tried, but yeah, it's not going anywhere. But
you haven't called him consistently every Sunday until he answers?
no.
Okay. Am I going somewhere I shouldn't?
No. I'm just saying that you got to know this guy. He,
I gotcha.
I mean, he's held a grudge against my uncle with something that happened back when they were 18, and they're in their 70s now, and he still holds it against it.
That's too bad.
It's something that he's holding inside, you know.
Got you.
But
the point I want to make is, I'm glad that we kind of came to this and the realization that we can find from, you know, a common ground with people with a substance abuse disorder, because your sister was not a terrible person and your wife is not a terrible person.
Nope.
They're human.
Right.
And guess what we all are?
Human. Everybody. Yep.
So we should be able to talk about this stuff. It shouldn't be a stigma, right? And I love that the one thing when I work with families is I'm not about the cut people off cold turkey, right? That can lead to mental health breakdowns. That can lead to suicide attempts. I'm about collaboration, not confrontation. Like, you have to hold them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But through the family program that we do at Steps that I helped create with the clinical directors that I work with, it's about using your behavior to influence their behavior, right? So let's picture this. We're all working in a garden, right? And it's your loved one's garden. And you're out there and you have shovels and backhoes, and you're really trying to make this garden beautiful. You're trying to improve it. If they put down their shovel and stop shoveling, you have to put down your backhoe and stop working too. Oftentimes the mistake that our family members we make with the best intentions, the most loving intentions, is when they put their shovel down, we try to pick up the rake and do the backhoeing and the shoveling at the same time. And we got to stop doing that, right? Allowing people to experience their natural consequences. Mm-hmm. Listen, that may sound very unloving, but it's not. It's tough love. It's just a different form of love that we don't always talk about. So if your loved one is a chronic liar and they're struggling with an addiction, you use your behavior to influence theirs by stop covering up for them. Let them fall flat face into their lie.
Mm-hmm.
Do not try to rescue, right? Hey, that was your decision. You said that. I know that you are capable enough to handle that. That's another thing that we make the mistake of doing. Self-efficacy. We treat them like they're infants. If I'm working with my kids and I have OCD, so I like my towels folded a specific way, and they draw to fold towels, and they go and they fold towels, and then they go out to play, and while they're out playing, I come back and I start refolding the towels I want them to be folded, and they come back inside. Oh, Dad, we already folded the towels. Why are you folding them again? Well, you didn't do it right. What does that teach them?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That's a great point, because when my wife and I first moved in with each other, I'm really picky with cleaning. You know,
we would get along great.
She'd get done and she'd go over and she'd do everything, and then just a few minutes as soon as she's done, and she'd go in the living room, sit down. I'm over there, and she's like, "I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore." It's like, why? She's like, "Because you go over it right out." And it's like, it's not that you did a bad job. It's just, it's not to my standards. But I was doing the same thing with my wife.
Yeah.
You know, and I've shared this many times, even on the show. One time I went and picked her up when she had a weekend after being in rehab. She had this weekend overnight stay, 24 hours. Went and picked her up. She's telling me stuff that went on, at rehab and in therapy, and of course, good old me, man. I'm going to put my 2 cents in, and
you're going to fix it.
And I'm going to fix it. But that's a word she does not like. She does not like that word "fix." But I started saying, well, I started shoulding on her. What I did.
Yep.
Well, you should do this, and then you should try that, and
you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and she finally stopped me, and she goes, "For frickin' once, I wish you'd be my husband instead of my damn therapist."
Yep.
And I've shared this on the show quite a bit, and probably will continue, because did it help me when she said that? No, I still didn't get it. It took me quite a few years after that before I realized it. When I got on with my life and started going, okay, this is your thing. Mm-hmm. JD brought it up one time in a show. I was addicted to her addiction.
Yes.
Soon as I got on with my life, she started noticing, and all of a sudden her life started changing as well.
And that's how you use your behavior to influence hers.
Right.
Beautiful. You know, if you're listening to this right now and you have a loved one that comes home and they drink excessively, or they come home and maybe they're already drunk or loaded, right? Narcotics use. We can't make people do anything, right? Mm-hmm. We can only focus on what we can do, but what we can use our behavior to influence theirs. So in other words, let's a hypothetical situation, husband and wife. The wife's home, she's cooking, making dinner. Husband comes home, right? And he's loaded, high, or drunk, right? Or, she can choose to say, hey, you know what? Tonight I'm going to go to my friends. Hey, you know what? Tonight I'm going to go see my sister. Hey, tonight I'm going to go visit my parents. Okay. And maybe right up front, doesn't have a huge impact, but the more she refuses to be around that person when they're intoxicated, eventually, I promise you, this conversation is going to happen. Hey, how come you never want to be around me anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the window that we've built, the window of opportunity, okay? Then you have an honest conversation with them. I love you, and I can't be around you when you're intoxicated. I really want you to get help, right? I can't be around you when you're like that. I just can't. I can't see it anymore. It's breaking my heart. And hopefully that is the point where maybe some change. They move from, you've heard the 5 stages of change, right? They move from pre-contemplation, where I don't have a problem. What are you talking about? I don't have a problem. You're my problem, JD.
Yeah.
You saying that I have a problem.
The blame
is my
goes
problem,
elsewhere.
right? To contemplation, to like, man, my wife's not wanting to spend time with me because I'm drinking every night. Man, what's my marriage going to look like in a year from now if we don't ever talk to each other and don't ever spend time together, right? And then preparation, like, she wants me to get she wants me to get help. She wants me to stop drinking. Maybe on my lunch break I'll do a Google search. Maybe I'll start looking into it, right? And then action, and then maintenance. That's how we move our families through the 5 stages of change. What we do on a slide though is when they start moving into those, and then we make things easier for them, right? We don't allow them to experience their natural consequences. They slide back. In other words, if I'm a heroin addict, I'm strung out, and I go to my mom, I say, Mom, I need help with my car payment because I've wasted all my money on heroin. And she says, Jared, I love you. You are a capable young man. You'll figure out a way if you want to keep the car.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now it's on me and it's my problem. Versus if she makes that car payment, sweet.
Yeah.
Disaster averted. Do I have to change anything? Do I experience any kind of pain? In the meantime, she's dipping into her savings or her 401k or her retirement to make my car payment, right? So it's no wonder why the families need support and help. And does that make sense? Because they're the ones that's carrying the biggest burden.
Yeah.
And until they realize that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming the families. It's with all the most loving intentions that we do these things.
Yeah, it's in good. Yeah.
It's great intentions. They just don't have the awareness and the education.
It's the right tools, because I was taking a class, and it was through USAR. It was the Craft Family Support Group, and they're really good with the I statements, and that was huge. I mean, you go through scenarios, and it's like a wife was telling her husband one time, it's like, I really enjoy going to dinner with you, and I really like it when you don't drink at dinner because I feel so close to you. It was all I, instead of in the past, it was like, I cannot stand going to dinner with you because every time we go, you end up having one cocktail that turns into 6 cocktails. Yeah. And it's just, you're digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. An alternative to nagging, begging, and pleading. Yeah. The Craft Family Program. I tell all of our families, hey, listen, so it's cool that we meet as families and we discuss these things, but you need a support group too. Go to Al-Anon, go to Nar-Anon, go to CODA, go to Craft, go to NAMI, right? For mental one
health.
That fits.
Absolutely. Find one. You need the support too.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back. When we come back, I want you to share just a little bit more about steps. Cool. In case somebody is interested, because, people need help. Did you have something, Jared or JD, you want to share right before we go?
Yeah, I'm Jared 2.0. So.
Jared 2.0.
I like it.
No, I'll just really quick going back over your bio. Just a few things you wanted to talk on. So obviously I want to talk about steps, but you put in there also your goal setting and gratitude and self-reflection. Like those are something too I'd like to cover if we can.
Okay.
I know obviously you got a long drive if you're headed back that way or what you got going, but I don't want to take up too much more of it. But obviously those things go into with mindset and
Let's
where
hit
things
on
sit.
it.
So I'd like to be able to talk more about what you do for goal setting, what you did. Obviously you got to have steps to if you don't write down your steps, your goals, how are you going to hit that mark?
Yeah,
they're just
you
wishes.
Know where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tamara K. Anderson, and I want to share something special with you. When our son Nathan was diagnosed with autism, I felt like the life we had expected for him was ripped away, and with it, my own heart shattered as well. It's very common for families to feel anger, pain, confusion, and anxiety when a child is diagnosed. This is where my book, Normal for Me, comes into play. It shares my story of learning to replace my pain with acceptance, peace, joy, and hope. Normal for Me has helped change many lives, and I'd like to give this book to as many families as possible. We've put together something I think is really special. My friends and listeners can order copies of my book at a significantly discounted price, and we will send them to families who have just had a child diagnosed with autism or another special needs diagnosis. We will put your name inside the cover so they will know someone out there loves them and wants to help. I will also sign each copy. You can order as little as one or as many as hundreds to be shared with others. So go to my website, tamarakanderson.com, and visit the store section for more information and to place your order. You can bless the lives of many families by sending them hope, love, and peace. Check it out today at tamarakanderson.com and help me spread hope to the world.
Hey, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. We're here with our guest, Jared Miller.
Hey-o.
Hey-o. Hey, we just want to give a shout-out to a couple other new sponsors that we've got. We've got I Am Power Ninja Real Estate. Thank you so much, Troy, for your kindness, your love, and for helping us out and believe in our cause. Also to TJ McLeland with Fitness Realty. Man, these real estate agents are just coming in like crazy, helping us out. So beautiful. Thank you, guys. This has taken us, your kindness and your love is helping us take this to a next level, and we greatly appreciate it. And we just brought in a new sponsor. So USARA has now come in as support. So Evan, Darlene, Tiffany, who we just had on the show not too long ago. Darlene was on the show. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And, of course, a big shout-out and a huge thank you to Brad Newfield with Resilience Talk Network. We couldn't do any of this that we're doing right now without you, Brad, so thank you so much, and for everybody. So,
Al, I just got to say, man, I'm impressed. Like, I have two sponsors on my show, We Do Recover, and half the time I can't even get them right, man. You have like a list, dude. Like, that's pretty impressive.
I'm doing my best not to miss them. I missed one last week, and I feel really bad that I missed them, but yeah. I
think I have an excuse. So I don't know if you knew this about me, but back in the day, I did a lot of drugs. So that may have a part in it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
If I missed it, I just hit 58, so I'm blaming it on age, even though I still feel like I'm a young pup. But hey, before we went on break, JD brought up a couple things like the goal setting and things like that. Talk about, but
so goal setting, positive affirmations, and then obviously gratitude, which I just like hearing about those things because I'm actually a book that I read that I'm working on right now, and I've worked on it several times, and that's something I need to work on. Is sometimes I have a hard time finishing a book, but it's called The Magic by Rhonda Burns, The Secret. Following those, but The Magic talks about gratitude and actually gives 28 days of.
Is it 28 days of affirmations? Because I tell you what, I think affirmations are huge. I went to a class while JD's getting this. I went to a class. And they gave us a list of affirmations. They wanted us to go home and look at ourselves in the mirror and say these affirmations. I went home and was doing. I'm like, well, this is a piece of cake. Well, it took a couple days before I realized I wasn't looking myself in the eye when I was doing it. I'd look at myself in the eye, then I'd look away as I say it, and then I'd look at myself in the eye and look away as I say it. And then I'm like, no, I'm not believing what I'm saying. So,
and that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get that.
So this right here, just the magic, but it's got 28 days, so it goes through, but count your blessings, magic rock, relationships, health, money, words like magic, but it's all based on gratitude, like giving thanks, what you're grateful for. So again, the fact that you mentioned that in your bio, obviously it goes to just one of those things, again, believe in a higher power, you believe in God, whatever the case may be there. But it's like you got to be grateful for the things that you have or the things that you've been through in order to receive more. If you're not grateful for what you have, it can be taken away.
Absolutely. So check it out. So here's my therapeutic approach, okay? I get Johnny or Susie that comes in and they're my client. And a lot of times we think we got to talk about the drugs. And the drugs and the drinking isn't the problem. They had a problem before the drugs and drinking were introduced, and that's why the drugs and the drinking fixed that problem that they originally had. Okay? So a lot of times they come in and listen. Another thing why we're big on collaboration, not confrontation, is because kicking somebody when they're down is not helpful.
Right.
Okay. And oftentimes when people have substance use disorders or other mental health disorders, they are already one of their own hardest critics, and they have this narration in their head already. I'm a mess up. My family doesn't love me. I can't stay stable in a career. Heck, I can't even hold a job, right? And this is the narration. This is the story that they're telling themselves, and they believe it. And therefore it manifests in their life. It shows up in their life. So the first thing, and we're going to do this in 3 stages. The first stage is we have to identify the bully. We have to identify the subconscious belief, right? And really, we have to identify the conscious belief to reprogram the subconscious belief. And how we do that is by reverse engineering. So if the bully is telling me, man, I'm so stupid. Okay, that's the negative self-talk, the narration in my head. So I have my clients journal the bully. Tell me what he's telling you. Write it down, right? Just write it down. Just be observant. Just be aware of what it's saying to you. After they're aware of it, what's the opposite of stupid?
Smart.
Smart. So we identify, okay, the opposite of stupid is smart. All right, so now I'm aware that, okay, my conscious is telling me that I'm stupid. I have to reprogram my subconscious to know that I'm smart. Well, again, back to belief. I can tell myself I'm smart 1,000 times in front of a mirror, but if I don't believe it, it's not going to be very effective.
It's not going to do anything.
So the third step is we identify the negative self-talk, we find the opposite, and then we start finding it in our environment. So if I'm reading in a group, okay, and I read really well, and somebody says to me, man, Jared, you are a great reader. Well, do dumb people read great? No, right? But if my negative self-talk is I'm dumb, but somebody pays me a compliment that I read really well, man, maybe I'm smart. So
starts changing.
Again, yes. So first stage, identify the negative self-talk. Second stage, what is the opposite of it? Third stage, maybe you do positive affirmations. I'm smart, right? But the most important part of it is you have to look for the feedback in your environment. Okay? Maybe the negative self-talk is I'm a screw up. No, but my family doesn't love me. Okay? The opposite of that is I'm not a screw up. I can do hard things. I can be successful. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I tell myself, one of my positive affirmations is I am successful. And I say it with passion. I am successful. Okay? Then I transition out of RTC to PHP. That's no joke. A lot of people leave AMA. They leave treatment because it's too hard. There it is in your environment. You did something hard. You're not a screw up. You're not a failure, right? And the more that we have this external stimuli that increases our belief in what we're telling ourselves, the more we're going to reverse engineer all that negative self-talk. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And again, back to belief with goal setting. I never set a goal in present or past tense. Never. All the goals I set are future tense. So I'm going to graduate treatment. If I put the energy out there and I tell myself and I write it down, I'm going to do this. I'm making a declaration that's going to manifest. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And then I tell people that's not even good enough. Saying it to yourself isn't good enough. You have to write it down.
Right.
And after you write it down, that's not even good enough. I want you to go around and tell people. Okay? So guys, one day my goal is to have a PhD and to write a book. So I go around and I tell people, even though I'm just a substance use disorder counselor right now, I'm not even a master's level clinician, I go around and I tell people, one day I'm going to have a PhD and I'm going to write a book. Because that's the third and most important part of it, is I have to tell other people. I have to hear it. I have to put it out in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. And if I say it, right, and I just explained that wrong, I'm going to get a PhD and I'm going to write a book, then that's a goal. I try to do it in future tense, like it's already happened. I'm just waiting to get there. Like I already know that it's going to happen. I'm just waiting, right? I'm on the vehicle already there. I know it's going to happen.
So it's like, again, The Secret, you know, the analogy I like to use out of it, or Esther Hicks in Thoughts or Things. The Law of Attraction. I don't know if you've ever read that book. Powerful book. Like, you talk about spiritual. That book, first 20 minutes, your hair will stand up off your arms. I promise you. I listened to it and I got cold chills. Like, it was that.
I haven't read the book. I've seen the video. Great video. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, but it goes into that, like putting that tense, the future tense, but that you already have it, that it's already yours.
Yeah.
You know, like that.
Well, if
you
I'm
have
not
to
mistaken,
believe.
it even says that in the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I do a journal every day. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I put that I am successful, and then I put down what I am successful at. And then the things that I want, I'm like, I word it in a way that it's like, I even put a date to it. Like, I've got some things where I am building and creating by the end of this year. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. I'll set another date, but I'm still believing that it's happening. And then at the end of the day, I go back in the journal and I put down everything that I'm appreciative for. I had a good friend tell me at a pool party a few weeks ago, I always put I am grateful. And I am is two big, powerful words. And he's like, grateful is good, but it's almost kind of like a past tense. And so now I changed it to I am appreciative.
I like it.
Of whatever the day was today, you know, like I was appreciative that I was invited to a golf tournament today. I got to play in a charity golf tournament, you know, just something so simple, because it helps. And I mean, it's Steve Harvey even talks about it. He did this thing where you write down 300 things that you want. 300 things that you want in your life. So two of my lady friends called me up and said, hey, we're going to do this, and we wanted to know if you wanted to do it with us. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it, you know. And it took me 2.5 months. And Steve Harvey says as soon as you hit 75, you're going to be stuck. Well, I made it to about 80 something, then I got stuck. And then just one night, I think I popped out like 100. Just one night, just things started coming. You're supposed to read all 300 every single day.
And then cross them off as you get them done.
So I was doing that, but it was taking me like 15 flipping minutes to read through this, and I finally started getting lazy. But it is so amazing because 4 things have been checked off that list. And it's just been something as small as I want to sell my freezer. That's something I want to do. It's part of the 300, something I want to do. I sold the freezer. I want to sell this old fridge. I sold this old fridge. I want to go skydiving. What do my daughters do? Call me up. Hey, Dad, we want to take you skydiving for your birthday and for Father's Day. Oh, my gosh. Yep. So, yeah.
You got to put it out there. Hey, listen,
put it out there.
The universe is a powerful thing. It really is. You know, you talked about shoulding on people and should. One of the things that I find the most comical is when people do that, when they say shoulds. Because, so I'm a Christian, right? And I believe in Christ. If that's not the flavor for you, that's okay. We can use universe. We can use higher power.
Yeah, whichever.
To me, the meat and potatoes is kind of the same, and I don't want to offend anybody. So whatever works for you, I want you to think about this. So by me saying I should have done this, or things should be this way, how arrogant is that? That's basically like slapping God or the universe in the face and saying, I know better than you know. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like that whole concept is crazy to me, because I believe in something bigger than myself. And so if I sit there and I say like things should have gone this way, well, first of all, you're in denial because they didn't, and there's facts because it happened. Secondly, if I'm saying things should be this way, I'm really just challenging like the universe or God or whatever, right? Like, and who am I to challenge something greater than myself? Does that make sense? It's funny because in recovery, people often have like this complication or this struggle with God because they feel like the God of their understanding is a punishing God, right? It's fear. It's a faith or a fear-based God, not a faith-based God, which they need to work through that. But it's interesting how much power they give him, though, right? Like, it's interesting to me, like, for not believing in God or the universe or higher power, they sure blame it a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty interesting to me? And I love pointing that out. Like, okay, so this isn't your fault. It's you're being punished, right? Whether it's the universe or God or whatever, but yet you don't believe in something bigger than you, but you're telling me that you're being basically punished by something bigger than you.
Yeah.
Weird. Crazy.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I love that you brought that up, because I have worked extremely hard the past few years not to put that should in my vocabulary. One that I definitely have worked on for the past 5 years, and I've done pretty good. And every once in a while it'll slip out, that hate word. Like even just saying, oh, I hate these shoes because they put blisters on my feet all the time. You're putting a lot of negative crap out in the universe. You know, and I've been working on my wife with a lot of things, and even the word sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry is actually a negative word. If you look up the definition in the dictionary of sorry, and if you watch a lot of movies with the Romans, they always said, I apologize, or I'm apologetic. They never said sorry. So apologize it's a stronger word.
It's more positive.
More positive.
Yeah.
So
talking about sorry and stuff, and that's something too that again, and I'm sure you did the same thing going through the addiction and stuff, but you know, like, I mean, I always feel like I've had to apologize even when it wasn't the wrong, but also to like my wife or my sister, you know, it's always that I'm sorry, and I'm sure probably felt the same way, but in being a negative form. But then it gets to like in a belief system on the other side of it too. It's like, well, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. And I think going back to kind of my bio and the things that I'm big on, oftentimes everybody's talking about like it's become this like, this popular thing is what's your why? Well, listen, that's only good for somebody who is to keep somebody motivated, right? When we talk about somebody in addiction and moving them from addiction into early recovery into long-term recovery into a successful, happy, fulfilling life, most of the time they don't know a why. So we have to back up before that and talk about the what. What do you want your life to look like?
That. Yeah.
Like, look, if your what is to continue to use for the rest of your life, if you truly think that is going to make you happy, who am I to stand in your way? I'm not your higher power. By all means, right? But if you think about that and you go, what I want is a meaningful relationship. What I want is a career. What I want is love, acceptance, right? Purpose. Then recovery can therefore be pretty easy, because you come across a path where something's presented to you, a temptation, I'm getting biblical now, a trigger, right, or craving, and you simply ask yourself, does this align with what I truly want in life? And if it doesn't, then you call a sponsor. You go through one of your DBT skills. You cognitively reframe that. You know what I mean? You work through that with the skills that you learn to be able to get past that moment, to stay in line with what you really want. Sadly, a lot of people don't know what they want because they've been in survival mode for so long that I ask them, what do you want? And sadly, this is the question I get. I don't know. That's okay. We can start there.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Well, I think that goes with the majority of people.
Yeah.
Not even just the addicts. Because I've been asked that question before too, and I was just like,
yeah.
I probably had that dazed look on my, deer in the headlights, because it's like, what is it that I want?
You can't get something you don't define.
No, you can't.
And I feel, just to relate to that, and I've been to that, like, where I feel like I clearly had things defined of what I want, and then just life, going through, battling the things with those issues,
Yeah.
Finally get to the point where you're just like, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where to go, you don't know what to turn, you don't. I've gone through those moments in my life where I've got these ambitions. I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to have this. I'm going to be able to help these people. I'm going to be able to do this, to a point where I'm like, I don't want to do anything, Like, feel like I've been beat down that hard.
Yeah.
Again,
you got to keep moving forward towards that goal, and you got to keep asking yourself, is this with everything, is this going to bring me closer to my goal? Right? I can do that with my finances. If my goal is to save $1,000, when I go to the gas station, do I really need that bag of M&Ms?
Right.
Is this bag of M&Ms going to take me closer to saving that $1,000?
Yeah.
Or is it going to take me further away from it?
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, really is. Well, guys, this has been a great show.
This has been fun.
Step recovery.
Yeah, thank you
please
guys.
bring that up.
You guys. Yep. And listen, this comes purely from my heart. Like, I'm not getting paid to do this. I promote them because they're family to me. Because listen, one of my goals was to work for an organization that I truly, truly believed in, right? Not to pump somebody for all the insurance money that you can get out of them and then dump them, right? Like somebody who I felt like was genuinely, again, I've been broken. I've been homeless. I've had zero hope. And I really wanted to work at a place that truly was in it for the right reasons. And I found that in Steps Recovery. I really have. Like our owners are addicts themselves. Ty went to prison for 8 years. Ty Hansen. Paul Walkinghorse struggled with a cocaine addiction, checked into LDS hospital, right? I hope they don't mind that I'm telling them. I'm sure they don't. They talk about it. Yeah. But so they're in it for the right reasons. Like when you have gone to these depths, guys, and you have not lived life but just survived it, there is truly something about, like, do you guys get paid for doing this?
No.
You do it because what? You're passionate about it, right?
That's it. Exactly right.
So Steps Recovery Centers, if you have a loved one that needs help, please reach out to them. You can call them at 801-800-8142. And genuinely, like, again, there's a lot of treatment centers out there. To me, they really are the gold standard. Like the family program that I do, we don't bill for that. We don't. People don't know that. We do not bill for our family programming. We do it because we realized if we want to increase success rates, if that's the goal, we have to help the people outside of the building as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Give them a call. Love those guys.
If somebody had a question for you, I mean, are you on social media where if somebody wanted to reach out to you on Messenger or Instagram or whatever, are you good with sharing that in case somebody had something for you?
Please give me a call. Matter of fact, I'll give you my work cell phone number.
Okay.
So that's 435-525-7555. Or you can shoot me an email if that's more comfortable for you. You can text me that number as well. My email is jaredm@stepsrc.com. So jaredm@stepsrc.com. Please reach out. Like, listen, my thing was I didn't know how insurance worked, and you have to have insurance, right? Unless you are just loaded. But I know agents. I have agents in my phone that can help you get insurance. Matter of fact, whether you go to Steps or not, okay? I'm so passionate about this. Whether you come to Steps or not, I could care less. I want somebody to get help. Reach out to me. If you've recently lost a job due to an addiction, if you've been unemployed and you want to get treatment, reach out to me. I'll pay for the first 2 months of your insurance to get you on a program, to get you into treatment, to get you some help. I personally, not Steps, huge. Jared Miller will pay your first 2 months premium. Reach out to me, 435-525-7555. Let's make a difference, guys. Let's do it.
Love it. Jared, thank you for coming up from St. George to be here on our show, man. So blessed and so grateful to have you here.
I appreciate it. It's been a treat. You guys are both awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being
here. JD, again, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here for us and with us. Yeah, just so grateful for all you guys and so grateful to everybody out there. Again, please keep sending your comments. I think my wife thinks I'm turning into a baby because sometimes I'll be reading a comment and I'll start crying. And she's like, what's going on? And then I'll hand her my phone, and then, of course, she starts crying because your comments, guys, are phenomenal. Thank you. That makes us realize we are making a difference out there. That's what all this is about.
And please share this. Like I wouldn't have thrown that out there if I didn't know that there is a younger Jared somewhere out there that needs help.
Yeah.
So please share this, because the more people that watch this and listen to this, the more the more that we're going to help, right?
Exactly.
It's not about views. Like I could care less about that. I want to find the people that need this in their hand, that need to watch this.
Yeah. So definitely get it out there, and it's happening. So guys, thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. Jared, love you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for these awesome shirts, man. I love the shirts. I mean, gosh, here just lately we've been given flowers, we've been given shirts, we've been given a journal. I mean, this is awesome. So, guys, we're going to leave you with this, like I always do at the end of the show. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. Take care, guys.